That's
I
how
hope
I.
it works.
That's the face I made when I came into the world, I think.
Whoa, bro, this is fucking weird. And then the thing is, the astonishment never goes away. It's like, what the fuck?
You might die of astonishment.
What if like we're all just still continuously living out, what do you say, the trauma of being birthed?
I'm almost certain that it's like the Big Bang moment, and then it echoes throughout eternity. That was our Big Bang moment when we plop out. It's the big plop. We come out and we're like, fuck, what is this? I am a thing.
Yeah. I mean, think about how traumatic it is just to get out of the womb into fresh oxygen and then having that shit just clipped off like the umbilical cord. Like, I mean, how you would carry that for the rest of your life unconsciously, right?
I'm utterly convinced that like so much of what people are focused on or purpose towards unconsciously in the space of romance is about trying to get back up inside your mom.
That's right. Yeah, your recent video or recent videos have been about that topic too.
Yeah. Like it's a lot of like a desire to escape the rigors of reality because it's tough.
I mean, it makes sense. Like people always go back to like childhood trauma, but like, what about being birthed? Like that is innately every person's beginning trauma. Like no one's no baby comes out and says, oh, this is great. This is much better than inside.
Yeah, this is what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
When I was in a state of non-existence and therefore zero suffering.
Right. And then like your whole life you're just dealing with the fact that you had to be born. And
then you have the fact that every day you get like a little micro flashback trauma every time you wake up, because before you're awake, you're just drifting around the universe, and then you wake up and you're like, oh, I have to be this thing. Fuck. Like, and it's, you know, it's burdensome. Like being is burdensome. Just being a thing with some degree of consistency is quite tiring. I think that's why we age. I don't think we would age except for the fact that like just being is just so fucking tiring.
Well, if you look at it figuratively, from gravity pulling your skin down, it's the pressure. Like life existence is constant pressure, like gravity, just trying to squeeze you down, just push you, just right back where you came from, you know.
And the more you can sort of like find a way to just keep offloading the weight of trauma, the younger you stay, the more energetic you are, but you're still in a downward spiral. It's just a little slower.
Well, what's that like? I guess it's like was it Sisyphus with the rock? But in the animation that I have in my head is like shoveling the dirt over your head, but back to where your feet are.
Right.
You know? That's kind of
it's the kind of hideous punishments that the Greek gods would mete out to humans who displease them. You know, they'd have to do that for eternity, just continuously bury themselves alive for eternity.
But then you never actually actually you do get buried just at the end of everything. But in the meantime, it doesn't feel like you are. You're just until then.
There's always with the punishments of the Greek gods, there's always a perpetualness to it and a repetitiveness to it that reflects life. So implicit in the idea is like it's kind of a punitive experience. It's kind of like a penitentiary, you know.
It is that you cannot escape repetition, which is really funny because like I almost feel like I battle that every day. I don't like repetition. I don't like schedules. But just by going off schedule, it's also a punishment too. So it's like you'll actually be worse if you don't have a repetitive jail-like procedure every day. So it like forces you that you can do all that have all that freedom, but when you do, you're gonna suffer even more.
We're in the realms of Schopenhauer, because he felt like life itself was a kind of a punishment, and it sort of opts like a prison. You know, nobody chooses to be here. You serve out your time, and if you stick to the rules, the rules suck. But if you stick to the rules, you're kind of okay. Yeah. And if you go outside of them, you're completely fucked. But I agree with you. Like structure versus chaos is something that's very much on my mind at the moment, because I'm like, I need more chaos in my life. I can't be this structured. I can't be this robotic. And every time you let even just a little bit in,
Oh
it's
no.
Pandora's box. You just
Yo, bro.
you pick
Yeah,
stuff
like
up.
here's the thing. We're the yin and yang of the same coin. I have way too much spontaneity, freedom, and chaos in general, and I'm trying to like fit into a schedule.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like on paper, we all crave freedom, and then when you get it, it's way worse. Like I know that I have to like tie myself down to like a fucking schedule because this is not a way to like consistently live either.
That would be where Slavoj Žižek would pop in and say, the greatest pleasure was when you craved the freedom, not when you got the freedom.
Exactly. Yeah, the freedom is only valuable if you're stuck in a 9 to 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's a dream that should remain as a dream. I think the specific example he said is like, he was saying, don't leave your wife and get with your mistress. Just enjoy the romantic notion of being with your mistress. We could be together. It would be wonderful, but I can't because I'm married. And you just stay there. Whereas if you actually divorce and get with your mistress, then your mistress is your wife.
And then the whole cycle repeats,
and
right?
The whole cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad I'm saying this, reporting these Balkan wisdoms in my white
your white tank top while you fell asleep in the sun.
A glass of rakia and a cigarette.
Yeah.
Do not marry your mistress. She would be your wife. Or what?
Yeah, literally right after you fell asleep in the sun too. So you're very culturally consistent at the moment. You know, my version of that's a little less risque is I made a whole monologue. I was like in the sun on one of the hills out here. I was feeling really romantic for some reason. I made a whole monologue on travel flings are the best version of a romantic relationship. It's perfect because you go to a new place, you meet somebody that either is a local that will show you around or you're another tourist and you guys are exploring a whole new world. And there's a set time limit. Few days, 1 week, you get to know the culture from the local or you explore the whole thing with a tourist as well. And it's going to be only good. And the problems that will happen are also part of the adventure. So then by the end of it, you know you have to say goodbye. And that might be bittersweet, but it remains memorable in the end. You won't hold that trauma forever, you know?
Yes. No, I agree 100%. And I'm back in Bosnia again because I met a guy. Well, I told you about this guy, the guy who said that for him, the war was fun. He was like, you're not supposed to say this. But it was exciting. We didn't have to go just, obviously he was too young to understand how awful it was. And to him, it was an excitement. But that same guy was a really good looking Bosnian dude. And his whole thing was taking tourists around Sarajevo. And I'm like, this guy's got the whole, forget red pill pickup, just be a tour guide. He's like tall, handsome Bosnian dude. He's like, talk to tourists, give them a little bit of Bosnian phrases they can use, you know, show them the place. Yeah. And he's the guy, like, you can't extract him from the experience. He showed you where this place was. And it's an emotional journey that you go on with him for like 6 hours. It's got highs and lows and it's got drama and everything. Yeah, absolutely. It's a perfect experience with an end. Nobody who ever gets with this guy wants to actually be in the apartment with him.
But that's the thing, right? Both parties are unspokenly, consensually wanting it to end. And that's what makes it even better because not one person is, we can't, like, I want this forever. No, like each person has their own life to go back to, and it's far away, but it remains a good memory, you know?
It's fantastic. It reminds me of another case I saw. The Beach Boys in Thailand of some of these lads have figured it out. The guys who do the jet skis and stuff. Yeah. And you'd see them like walking the gulls on the beach in the sunset, and the gull, she's so happy, he's so happy, but it's the same thing. Like, look into the sunset with me. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could stay in Thailand? But you gotta go back to Sweden.
Exactly. But the thing is, like, let's be real, everyone knows after that sunset moment, it's all downhill. You know, everyone knows.
Of course, because like reality sucks. I mean, like for me, like if I'm the goal, he's this perfect exotic experience, exotic in every sense. Like he's living a different life. The fact that he's even just living on the beach every day, wow, that's amazing. That's incredible. Yes. And then I also know a girl who stayed with the Beach Boy, a girl from London, kind of a friend of mine I knew on and off from like 2013. And she actually tried to keep the dream going. Oh,
No,
she did not have a good time.
no. There is a set time, and that's what makes it good. Like creativity flourishes with limitations in the same way like
Yeah.
romances flourish with a certain set of circumstances, you know.
Well, even the word romance, I'm such a buzzkill, but I like to remind people of this. In French, if you read a novel, it's a roman. It's the same root. The romance was from a novel. These are stories. They're fantasies. Nobody consumed them naively. They were a fantasy, and then somewhere along the way, we just kind of forgot. And we're like, no, this is real life. So it would be like trying to live Star Wars. You'd be like, where's Yoda? Where's my fucking R2? Why don't I have a lightsaber? This sucks. And you go, no, it's not. That was just a film. It's not. You're not supposed to try and live it.
I'm trying to think why and when that happened. So that implies with that change, that means people got more removed from life. In order to buy these fantasies, you have to be so removed from everyday life to believe it. So somewhere along the line, because heartbreak was just inevitable if you were just a person in real life.
Yes.
Somewhere along the line, people got so removed that then when they watch these movies, that's the reality that they know. So they paint that fantasy romantic relationship for long lasting.
Exactly. And that was what Karl Marx pointed out in about 1840 something, when he was talking about the excess of wealth changing reality. And he came up with the concept of alienation. So as I work as a cobbler, I used to see my customer put the shoes on their feet and go, yes, we've talked about this, right? So alienation is you never see the fruits of your labor. You're just a cog in a machine. You're alienated from the work, and it's dehumanizing. You don't feel good. In the same way, as we've become wealthier and wealthier, yeah, we just become more and more disconnected from reality, because there's always a discretionary gap to sort of buy your way out of reality in a certain sense.
I actually talked to Abba on his Instagram live for like 10 minutes, and
Oh,
he
cool.
was so he does these live streams and he just brings people on. Sometimes I pop in, and it was literally pretty innocent subject. It was just, why don't you know how to cook? Because apparently there's a lot of people these days that just don't know how to cook at all. And he was like, how the fuck y'all don't know how to cook? Like, how did that happen? So I was trying to like think about it, and it was like exactly what we're talking about right now. There's more wealth, there's more accessibility, more convenience. The same way you can stream Spotify and Netflix movies, you can download food to your door. So it's like, why the hell would you bother learning how to cook when everything is just like, here it is?
Exactly. I only ever do it. I wouldn't do it at all, except if you're actually trying to train and you're actually trying to diet, you have to cook your own food. It's just because if anything you buy, even if it says fitness or healthy up the side of it, when you actually look at the calories,
It's terrible.
The macronutrients is fucking garbage.
And that was his argument. Like, other than saving money, perhaps his argument was, when you cook for others and with others, it's a really good bonding experience. And second, you get to choose how healthy you want your meal. And that was, it was like reasonable, of course, you know.
Yes.
So it makes sense.
Yeah. No, it makes the wealth that we've got, and the wealth that we've had for a long time, you can track because you think, well, this is progress. This is fantastic. Yes, of course, it's great that 14-year-olds don't die of like gum disease anymore, or 6-year-olds die up a fucking chimney. That's great. But progress is neither good nor bad. It just is. And that progress of us having options and having the ability to buy, and then the economy exploding, not around necessity. Our economy is not based on necessity. It's based on wants. Fundamentally, like most of the economical movement is based on wants. It's based on luxuries. And that's a real problem. Like psychologically down the line, a lot of the problems that we face now, the obsession with safety, our lack of resilience, our lack of ability to process information critically, is because we're being, it's very abusive. We're simultaneously spoiled, and we're simultaneously being propagandized that we're weak. Because if you're going to sell somebody some shit, you got to tell them, listen, you're weak, you need this.
Yes, and that's the title of the stream. The weaker you are, the more power you have. And that's the narrative. Yeah. And it's funny because like I was talking with my Gen Z-ish friend as well, and even she agreed. Like, she's not like super like, oh, the generation's weakest, like boomer talk, you know.
Right.
But even we can acknowledge like we were set up to be so incompetent. We
Yeah.
are not made for anything that's going on right now at all. And I brought up that quote, which is almost a cliche at this point. It's
Mm-hmm.
the good times create weak men, and weak
Mm-hmm.
men create hard times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I mean, quintessentially, this is exactly what everything is, what it is now too. And it's like, what's interesting about it is like, it made me think about the climb and the reach and the desire for progress.
Mm-hmm.
But the desire for progress is just getting closer to resetting the cycle. It's
Yeah.
not actually moving up, up, up. It's just you're getting back around.
Yes. Yes. I believe that what you're saying is so intrinsically true that it's now, I don't think anything that we do now is going to stop it. And I think therefore, because it's like a wave, it's just a tidal wave. It's just going to happen. It's like the weather. It's like whatever. Our only thing that we can do as humans is pretend it's our choice. And just go, right, we choose a more primitive version of life. Let's ride the wave. If we fight this, it's going to be extraordinarily painful. But if we see the good in it and we're like, okay, we're choosing a simpler, more when I was in skateboarding as a kid, there was a video that was going around. The lads from Santa Cruz, California, and it was Tony Hawk.
Powell Peralta?
Yes.
No. Was it?
Yeah.
Was Powell? Yeah.
I used to have a Peralta deck. That was
Yeah.
the first deck I ever got. They had a video out called Future Primitives, and the idea was, you know that, right? The idea was, because skateboarding's like that. It's hard edged. You know, it's punk. It's tough because you break your shit. It's not like surf and live, skate or die was the thing, right? But Future Primitives actually had a song that went with it. It was garbage. It was terrible. But it's been playing on my mind recently. It comes up, this Future Primitive song, and I'm like,
what is it?
It's kind of like, it's a punk band, but they're doing swing music, ironically.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just called Future Primitives. I skate to live was like the main chorus.
Okay.
I think we have to choose. We have to look at our future and be like, we're going to be the future primitives. I think that's the only way through what's coming.
The thing is, I just only think we can get there not organically through the wave crashing. Like there's just like, we can't contrive it. We can't rush it. It just has to crash or about to crash, and we stand up on the surfboard or whatever the hell else, because there's no rush. You can't rush it.
Nope, you can't rush it. This one you go with. I suppose like when you, what do they call it when you get smashed when you're surfing? There's a word for that. But you're not, if you really drop off a wave and the wave lands on you can't, if you start like pushing and stuff, it'll just break you. It'll just break your fucking bones. So you just go through the washing machine and go blah, 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 and then pop out.
That's one of the most terrifying feelings, man. I mean, I used to live in the beach, so I used to go all the time. Just like when you get barreled. That's the right word. Yeah, you get barreled, bro. I got so barreled.
Those waves around there, I think, like, because the culture's quite soft and the music's quite soft, people don't realize how that's a big fucking sea, man. The Pacific is a proper fucking sea, and you got some heavy waves there, like big heavy waves. It's dangerous, but I think that's the way forward. Is we, like you said, we can't contrive it, we can't do anything. The only thing we can control is our self-conceptualization, which is, you could call it we're future primitives. Terence McKenna called it the archaic revival. Right. Which is it's the same principle. It's like we're gonna go back. We're gonna bring forward what was back, and that's gonna be the thing. That's gonna be the new thing.
Yeah. So every stream, there's always that quintessential moment where I take a YouTube comment way too personally and try to get some insight out of it. But one of them was. Pierre, something you've turned really negative and dark, and that's why you're getting negative experiences, because you're sending out what you get back, and you should be like more of your friend who's more compassionate. And I'm reading this and I'm like, are these people aware of what's happening right now. It's like no fucking shit. Things are getting angstier and more negative. If you're not, I don't know. I mean, maybe you're just in a bubble or something, because like I can't help to look at these things and feel like this. But there was a reason why I brought this up too, because it's like you gotta ride this fucking massive wave that's crashing on all of us, and to acknowledge like just be positive while you're getting barreled, you know. You gotta go, fuck,
yeah,
you know.
These are the same people who spend an awful lot of time actually privately screaming and crying, but publicly they're like, live, love, laugh.
Yeah, right. And like looking, like you bring up this skateboarding era. I mean, just from our conversations, I'm sure you can tell. Just like I just get along with Gen X and the mindset, just more fucking angsty and apathetic in general, right?
Yes.
And like, just like I'm not even going hard in these streams. Santorini was another story, but like, and
sorry about Santorini. That was a birth thing, and you all help, and that's that.
Yeah, but like the sheer level of acceptable angst and that is so different these days. It's like you're just express dissatisfaction somewhere, but with a tone, and then it's like, oh my god, that's a lot. Like you're bringing a really bad vibe here. Where before it's like you had to go even more. Like you had to go fucking Kurt Cobain, Henry Rollins, like Black Flag, and like with the skateboarding, dude, that was a rough time for skateboarding too. Like people were like fucking menaces, man. You know. Yeah. So now just to see the bar just way different. It's crazy to see him.
The bar on sensitivity is way higher because the bar on resilience has been dropped way down. When you mentioned like Gen X, liking Gen X and millennials, I was going to say before, like what millennials are aware of is that they weren't trained to do anything. But you were the average age of the kids I used to teach in school. So when I was your age, I was working in school, working with 16-year-olds. It's the same. It's the same age difference. And so I would see the system do that to people. Because I wasn't in the state school system. I was in private school, and we just didn't do that stuff. I mean, they would do illegal shit in private school. It strictly was against the law, but we were trained to be hard. We were trained to be tough, and it was militaristic. We handled machine guns within the school. It's part of the combined cadet force, but you chose a military arm and then you trained as though you were going to be a soldier. And all of that at the time, I think when I looked at it, I was like, fuck, I really don't want to do that. I'm so grateful that I went through that now. I'm so grateful that I had grown-ups yell at me and tell me to do stuff that I didn't want to do. And you would just become so hyper-adrenalized, you would just do it. And you actually get into it, you start to enjoy it, and you realize you can hack it. So your sense of like, oh shit, you know, I can strip this SAAT in under a minute blindfolded and then put it back to, which you don't want to do. Like this, it's like this is a waste of my fucking time. But then when you do it, you go, oh shit, that's actually it's pretty fucking cool actually. Sure. And you're when I got to the schools and I could see the messaging that was being given to the kids, which is like, basically they would the whole system just said, you're weak, you're weak, you're weak. Tell it, you children tell us adults how you're weak. And I was like, these kids are going to fucking react the way you treat them. Tell them they're tough, they'll act tough. Tell them they're smart, they'll act smart. Tell them they respond. Nope. It was like, you poor children, tell us the ways in which you're broken. And of course the kids were like, oh, I guess I must be broken, I'll just pick a color. Right.
So again, like back to the title, it's the weaker you appear, the more powerful you are, which is really strange, because if you show any real tangible competence, you are, I don't even know what the word is for that, not demonized, it's not that serious, but you were dismissed.
You can get ignored.
You can get ignored. You know, what's really interesting is like I'm losing a ton of Instagram followers in general, right? And what I've been posting more is, by the way, my friend, instead of a boxing coach, he actually mainly specializes in Muay Thai. So coincidentally enough, I've been taking Muay Thai training sessions with him.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, and it's great, and I like it. And I'm posting clips of me doing it, and I'm just like seeing the follower count just like kind of disappear. And like I'm really thinking about it, because if you, for example, if you want to approach it, some other unspoken YouTubers that seem a little more sensitive, but they have a certain fucking analysis on things.
Yeah.
Because they seem a little more approachable, or maybe a little more friendly, they have a more weight amongst what they say. And even me 2-3 years ago with full-on makeup, a bit more soft and sensitive, K-pop looking, my words have a bit more weight.
Yeah.
But if you start visually, tangibly showing competence, it's like I don't know what that is. It's so strange.
It's a cultural shift. So I'll share something with the class. I've never seen the film Centurion before. I found it on Netflix. Have you ever watched this film, Centurion?
No,
it's like 2012, like generic 300 sort of a thing.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, I don't want it. It's going to be shit. And then I saw Michael Fassbender was in it, and I was like, damn, Michael Fassbender's in it. And then he's playing a soldier, much of the way that like he did in the Michael Fassbender was in the 300. You have like there's a whole genre of movies there. And I remember when I was a kid growing up, we admired strength. We admired competence.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was one of the last waves of that. I didn't know that we were going to be one of the like, I don't even know how. Well, Bruce Lee, I don't think people would give a fuck about Bruce Lee now. That level of mastery, that level of competence.
No, hell no, dude. No.
It's flipped because the cultural coordinates have changed. We have to mention the fact that, like, if you're boxing and doing Muay Thai, well, I loved you 2 years ago when you were when you seemed to be just a purely sensitive guy. Much more fragile, much more vulnerable. I don't know how to feel about the fact that you're punching the fuck out of a bag or a pair of pants. That might be a bit confusing to me.
The irony here is that I'm braver when I'm soft and sensitive and I open up about how fucked up I am. But if I show my mastery over that and it doesn't affect me and I'm putting it into some physical fucking space, then it's like, I'm leaving. You know, I don't know what that is. It's so strange because they think the other thing is stronger.
Yes, because we've had this sort of a kind of a nerd revolution where which is partly to do with tech. It's partly to do with the demasculization and the criminalization of masculinity in the culture. And it's this sense that, look, it's just not okay for you to be a competent male. It's just not. It's not okay. It's a bit like, fucking hell, dude. So if you are if you're Dave Goggins, you can be Dave Goggins, which is this ultra extreme caricature. But then there's only one type of person who's going to follow you, and that's it. Nobody else is going to listen to you. So there's apart from the demasculization of culture, the fact that like competence has become criminalized. There's also a conformity issue. Everybody has their lanes, and you stay in your lane. We've discussed this. There's people who look at thumbnails of me talking, and they're like, I am never going to click on that fuckface video. I don't give a fuck what he says to me. I am not doing it. Dude, it's like this identity politics issue.
I mean, I sent you the picture of like a commenter saying, I stopped watching you because you cut your hair. But sometimes I watch this video, you know, it's really weird. I've been wearing less makeup, the hair is shorter, and doing a little bit more Muay Thai. Maybe I'm turning into you, who fucking knows? But like in general, it's just weird to see like how much that can possibly affect people. And like the thing is like, objectively, why is showcasing your weakness and showing that, you know, you're crying about it or it troubles you more strong than overcoming it and putting it into your own mastery? Like, why is it looked at? It's like the mass consensus these days too. It's just it's actually a niche and minority group of people that think that mastery is actually better. A lot of people are like, oh, you're so brave because you can't fucking shit, you know, like I don't know.
You're the most constipated man. You're like,
Yeah.
I haven't taken a shit in 7 days. So brave. Stunning.
Yeah.
Stunning,
So brave. So brave. You're also open about constipation.
Yeah. I think the answer's right there in front of your face, but it's so outrageous that you just don't want to see it. People who are weak will laud weakness. People who are fundamentally frightened will celebrate cowardice. It's Nietzschean. We are Nietzsche's last man. We are Kierkegaard's mass man, and everything is mediocrity, and only mediocrity and incompetence is acceptable. You have to be a dweeby soy boy who's apologizing for everything, for existing, or fuck you, man, you toxically masculine man.
It's so weird, man. It's even like what I mean. If a person was already just inherently grown up as like overly toxically masculine, it's one story. But what's weird is like if you see a soy boy nerd BuzzFeed dude and he decides to do fucking whatever the fuck, and then the consensus is like fuck this guy. That's weird. That's really strange.
They can do it, but they have to fuck it up.
Yeah.
And they have to be shit at it, and then they have to fall over and laugh. I've seen them do it.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh no, I couldn't pause.
Have you seen that? The BuzzFeed video where they took the Try Guys into the UFC ring? It's just like that. You just literally described that.
I may be thinking of that, and it made me want to execute them. But then another part of me thought, what I really want to do is take hold of them and make them learn, make them actually do it, because they can.
It's interesting because one of the guys, I think one or the two, like they started getting kind of into it too,
right?
And like they were trying, like actually getting into the motions, which is I like growing up and like learning how to skateboard and stuff, and then doing this martial arts training. It's the same type of like contact, and it puts you in the same headspace, and also it's just way better than this internet bullshit, dude. Right. Jesus Christ, especially at this point.
Yes.
Like I can't deal with this internet nonsense these days, man.
Well, we are living with a very exhausted narrative now, which makes me quite optimistic, because there's nothing left in the cookie jar. There's some crumbs at the bottom, and we're gouging them like, oh, is there any serotonin left? No, bitch, it's all done. It was probably done in 2018, and we were just getting by on fumes the last 2 years. It's done. It's
and this is
that whole way of being is done.
And this is perfectly set for the segue into these tweets here. This is great. Found this thread on Twitter. I don't even use Twitter. It was tweeted to me or something. I don't know. But 20 things I've learned or had confirmed about humanity during the pandemic. So I'll read 5. You read 5?
Okie dokie.
All right. Number 1, most people would rather be in the majority than be right. Number 2, at least 20% of the population has strong authoritarian tendencies, which will emerge under the right conditions. Number 3, fear of death is only rivaled by the fear of social disapproval. The latter could be stronger. 4, propaganda is just as effective in the modern day as it was 100 years ago. Access to limitless information has not made the average person any wiser. Anything and everything can be politicized by the media, government, and those who trust them. Maybe we can make these bigger. It's kind of small, huh?
This is Zuby. He's British chap, isn't he, Zuby?
I'm not sure, but
I think so. I'm claiming him.
Do you want to read them now?
Let me see. Many politicians and large corporations will gladly sacrifice human lives if it is conducive to their political and financial aspirations. Most people believe the government acts in the best interest of the people, even many who are vocal critics of the government. Once they've made up their mind, most people would rather commit to being wrong than admit they were wrong. Humans can be trained and conditioned quickly and relatively easily to significantly alter their behaviors for better or worse. When sufficiently frightened, most people will not only accept authoritarianism, but demand it. As the kids say, all facts and no cap.
Yeah. Should we keep going, or is it too much? Do you think it's too much to just read all at once, or like?
Let's pull a few points out. I'm just Can I just quickly grab my reading glasses? I'll be back in
Well,
1 second.
In that case, I can just read the rest if you want.
Okay. I'm just gonna grab my reading glasses.
Number 11, people who are dismissed as conspiracy theorists are often well-researched and simply ahead of the mainstream narrative. 12, most people value safety and security more than freedom and liberty, even if said safety is a mere illusion. 13, hedonistic adaptation occurs in both directions, and once the inertia sets in, it is difficult to get people back to normal. Number 14, a significant percentage of people thoroughly enjoy being subjugated. 15, the science has evolved into a secular pseudo-religion for millions of people in the West. This religion has little to do with science itself. 16, most people care more Most people care more about looking like they're doing the right thing rather than actually doing the right thing. 17, politics, the media, science, and the healthcare industries are all corrupt to varying degrees. Scientists and doctors can be bought as easily as politicians. You want to finish it off, Richard, if you got the glasses?
Oh, I'll finish him right off. I tell you what, all over my tits and face. If you make people comfortable enough, they will not revolt. You can keep millions docile as you strip their rights by giving them money, food, and entertainment. Modern people are overly complacent and lack vigilance when it comes to defending their own freedoms from government overreach. It's easier to fool a person than to convince them that they have been fooled.
And on a positive note,
most people are fairly compassionate and have good intentions. This is good.
And that's pretty much it.
Well, there's a second part. There's a negative to that. It says, as a result, most people deeply struggle to understand that some people, including our leaders, can have malicious or perverse intentions.
There you go. Yeah, that's an important second half. Yeah. Anything that stands out to you? There's a lot to cover, man. But yeah, it's just 100% each fucking one, man. It's really good.
Yeah. The one of the things that's been on my mind, all of those points are really, really good. I'm interested in the spontaneous occurrence of authoritarianism that I've seen in people I would never have identified as authoritarian.
Yeah, let's go to that one there. Where's the authoritarian? Yeah, here it is.
When sufficiently frightened, most people not only accept authoritarianism, but demand it. And then he said, in any population, he reckoned 20% of people are actually covertly authoritarian.
Right.
When there's authoritarianism, I think you have to sort of specify that there's a totalitarian element to it, which means that there's something absolute. Like, you have been told that this is the thing. So just obey, accept it, and do as you're told. And I'm like, what kind of a person who respects themselves or values intelligence would, under any circumstances, show up as spontaneously authoritarian? It's a lack of thinking, right?
Yeah,
I think, yeah. and then to demand, no, you change your behavior too, with no thought or else. So when they're authoritarian, they also have this belligerent, punitive side to them, as well as they're so a person's not authoritarian if they're not aggressive with it. They're not quietly saying, well, I wish everybody would, just do as they're fucking told. They're like, do as you're fucking told. Just do as you're told.
You know what? I have a series of questions that I just would like to shove on people, but it's just not nice. You know what I mean? And like, I just want to, like, the people that are authoritarian, whether it be about certain things that people are forcing each other to do at the moment, you would ask them, like, do you like people? Do you like friends? Can you make friends? Do you like your president? Do you like how the politics are structured in your country? Are you making enough money? Are you upset that you're not making enough money? So do you like the fact that you're not? Do you like what the president has told you to do? Or do you like what the government has told you to do, and would you like these policies? And oftentimes, no matter what side of the spectrum, people are like, no, I don't like my fucking president. I don't like the new policies. Too many fucking taxes. I don't like the people around me. I can't really make friends because I'm not really interested. And then you ask, so then why are you telling everyone else how they should live and to take this particular thing and to do this and to do that? Like, it's crazy. Like, why don't you, a lot of people are like, why don't you just do what this structure, this government tells you to do, this president, this thing? And then you ask them individually, do you like your president? And they oftentimes will just say no. But then
you're asking me to eat a slice of pizza that you don't like?
Yeah, it's so strange. Like,
listen, even you don't fucking like this thing. What are we
doing? They're like, follow the narrative. And then you ask them if they even like parts of each thing of the narrative, and they will generally say no to all of it.
That's true. It's a very, very good point. I'd not thought of that because, and I would say that that's so common that maybe it's more often than not that it's that way. It's actually the authoritarians. They're not dewy-eyed acolytes and zealots. They're not like, oh, it's wonderful, the British government. Oh, it's just
no one does that. No one does that. That's the weirdest thing. Left, right, north, south parties, whatever it is. No one's like, I love my government, like back in, rampant radical 1939. That doesn't exist anymore. Maybe in some really niche areas, but like in general, everyone's distrusting of the government in general, distrusting of the present authority, distrusting of getting taxed, whatever the fuck. But then at the same time, they'll tell everyone to do what the government tells them to do. And like, why? How does that work?
That's very interesting. It's not hypocrisy because they're doing what they're told, but it's certainly incongruent. It's like,
it is. I
know that you have serious questions about this government, and yet you're insisting that everybody do exactly what they're told, which I suppose, like the elephant in the room, maybe what we both believe but haven't verbalized it, it's like one of those arguments you have where you're not really arguing about what you seem to be arguing about. Like the person telling you to do it is maybe doing it for the pleasure of telling you to do something rather than actually naively.
In the end, it just has to be like a subjective, solipsistic, emotional, because logic, it makes no sense. Like, I can bring up the controversial thing that I'm pointing at, but let's just go with masks. It's a little controversial, but in general, people are like, wear your fucking mask. But then you ask them, like, where did you get this from? Or where are you getting this from? And then, do you trust the government? Do you trust this agency? Do you trust this? And they're not going to say yes most of the time, or they'll like kind of skip around it, sort of a thing. But then they'll say, like, you got to listen to it anyways. Like, you don't even like them either. Like, why are you fucking fighting for it?
It's I wonder if I know the point that Zaczek would make, or I'm 90% sure the point that Zaczek would make is that's a fundamental element of totalitarianism. He would say this is how ideology functions today. Nobody believes it. The CDC doesn't believe it. Your doctor doesn't believe it. The politicians don't believe it. The police don't believe it. The public doing it don't believe it. The nurses don't believe it. And yet we all do it for each other. So who's the other? And then it just becomes this generalized other. Where's the agency? By what authority? As I said on the last stream, I've got people in my apartment block screaming at me for walking through a hot car park at 30 degrees C on my own with no mask on. And I'm just like, who told you that I'm risking lives by doing, like, think about it. Like, we've been told that this thing doesn't survive on surfaces. We've been told that multiple times. Do you think I'm going to breathe on a car and then you're going to lick where I breathe, like suck the, like, what?
Yeah. I mean, at this fucking stage, at the first month that this shit popped off, I would be like, maybe it's better to just wear a mask everywhere. Just in case, just a little plan B. We're going to fucking restaurants, eating my goulash with like 30 other people drunk as fuck on their Pivo. new customers coming in and out, waiters and waitresses with no fucking masks on, and I'm fine, and a lot of people are fucking fine still. And it's like, yo, come on. Like, can we not? That's the elephant in the fucking room. Like, what are you guys thinking? Like, we're going to restaurant. Like, you look at the concert Lollapalooza that just happened, and like, it looks like a fucking zoo, dude. The whole place is just filled with kids that would be shaming others for this shit too.
You want to talk about a zoo? I was tracking a flight yesterday, and the app I use will usually let you track individual flights. For some reason, there was a glitch, and it only let me track all the flights. Just Iberia had running yesterday. A zoo, a fucking zoo. The number of flights that are happening now. Check, just these apps are free. You can download Flight Radar 24. It will show you everything. I looked at one airline at the moment I opened the app, they had more than 100 flights going everywhere. South America, North America, all across Europe. Some flights going across the other way. And I was like, and you can see the ones you're looking at glow red, and then you see all the other flights yellow. And I'm like, are we acting like there is a highly contagious, deadly
I know. What the fuck? Like, dude, so you're telling me since the beginning of 2 years ago almost, we put all these regulations, all these fucking rules, all the things that we have to save each other, and blah, 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 blah. Let's open up all the flights and have everything travel again, and then let's just have it happen all over again, while you still have to follow the rules. Go fuck yourself. What the fuck are you talking about?
And it's fine as long as on the flight you wear your mask, unless you're drinking or eating. And then I'm just like this really is a Zaczek moment. It really is a Zaczek moment. The physicist who puts the horseshoe over his house, and then somebody questions him and says, "You're a physicist. How could you believe in this nonsense?" And he said, "No, I don't believe in the horseshoe. I'm not an idiot, but I've heard that it works even if I don't believe in it." That's how all this is functioning. It's pure ideology.
It's superstition.
Pure ideology. Yeah. It's superstition at this point. 100%. It's like crossing yourself before entering a church. So just to preempt the comments, there are some people who genuinely believe it's necessary. Our point is that the powers that be from the top down telling us we have to do these things, they clearly don't believe it's necessary. There's no consistency of action here. You wouldn't act this way if your narrative were true. In a court case, I think they call this, they try to identify a guilty demeanor. So that the defendant says, "I was just trying to go to the supermarket to buy milk." And then they did every other fucking thing but drive to the supermarket. And by the time they'd been out for 5 hours, they went home with no milk. That's a guilty demeanor. You're telling us a story, you're saying one thing, but doing everything else. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense.
I've seen this like type of logic go completely full circle too, which is hilarious. There's one podcast that you and I both know and has showcases a comedian, and but I think one of his co-hosts. Yeah, the dunks, man. It's all it's about the fucking Nike SBs. And anyway, so his co-host, right? They're talking about vaccinations and how apparently you can still catch COVID if you have the vaccination, which blows my mind. Anyways, but you don't die, right? And then they talk about, well, some people have. And then he literally defends it like, okay, you can still get it with the vaccine, but the chances of you dying with it is super, super small, like 0.001%. And I was like, that's literally the argument to not get a vaccine. Yeah. It's literally the same percentage. Yeah. Like, why even do it if the percentage is already the same? Like,
yes. So yes, as an argument to do a thing where there's no extra advantage, that's the same as not doing it then. So I win the same.
Yeah, like the host of the dude said the host guy also said, I'm fully vaccinated, but I swear to God, if they still tell me to wear a fucking mask, then I'm totally over this because that's the contract that I signed up for to get the life back to normal. And if you're telling me I have to wear a mask plus the vaccinations, then fuck this.
Wow, that's a really interesting way of organizing reality.
Yeah.
So the mask is the boundary, not okay.
Yeah. Because everything should be back to normal. But like, there's literally no fucking changes because people are going to be happy to like maybe travel for like fucking 2 months before they lock it down anyways. Like, it's just, man.
The way I look at it now is if we look at the behavior of everything, so a year ago I remember saying, if it's a choice between me going to America and seeing my nephews or not, and then getting the V, maybe I get the V. And then as time has gone by, I'm really disturbed by how V focused everything is. You must V. There's only V. The only way through and out is V, 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 V. I'm like, so no antivirals then. There's nothing else. We're not doing anything else, just V. Knowing that it's temporary, knowing that it only lasts 8 months, knowing we'll need boosters, knowing it's not 100% effective. It sounds to me like you just really want everyone on that V. Call me crazy, but that's how it sounds because that's the priority. That's the messaging from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Mr. Brett Weinstein got just pulled off of YouTube because he was talking about fucking Ivermectin or whatever the hell.
Yep.
And like, what was crazy about it, he just mentioned like, our podcast has been right the entire time, and the WHO has been wrong multiple times. That's crazy.
That is strange and not good because, and this is where it's possible to get a bit despondent. I'm not despondent ever that major organizations who are funded by China or whatever they're funded by would tell lies. That to me is like, of course, like the sky is blue, water is wet, and these organizations tell lies. What makes me despondent is people's response to it, is to see that kind of belligerent, submissive, sadomasochistic, just do it. Do what? The science. What science? What papers did you read? Any? Did you even go on a website? Because the website, like the video we did, I said the websites for these organizations, they'll release press releases that aren't written in high-level academic science. They're for us. They're for normal people to read. There's no excuse. There's no excuse not to investigate this stuff because it's not only research papers. You can get official press releases that break it down in language anybody can understand. Nope. Are you going to read it? Nope. Just going to do what the news tells me to do. Okie dokie. You can. That's your life, but don't fucking tell me what to do. If that's where your intellect stops, if that's the fucking hard ceiling your dumb brain is bouncing into, you don't tell me a fucking thing. You're too stupid.
I think about like, so you're not getting it, you murderer, you know? I'm just like, you think this motherfucker is slowing all of us down, huh? What the fuck are you doing with your life? You know, what the fuck are you doing? Like you're okay, let's look at all elements of your own life, and just because you decided to do that thing, you are like the progression of society. You are just the saint that helps everyone, like, and all the other facets of their own life, just nothing's done.
Yeah. Michael Rapaport released a video where he was telling people to get vaccinated, and then sometime later, a couple of weeks later, he came down with COVID. And I'll if you haven't seen it, I'll send you the link. He's so depressed.
I think I saw it.
And he's furious. He's like, I thought I was a hero, and that's why he was gobbing off. Be like, you should all get vaccinated. You should. What, you thought you were a hero? Like, how old are you? 12? Like, what the fuck are you? How stupid are you? And it's not. I'm not an anti-V. Like, there are things you should get it for. I'm V'd up for stuff. But this scenario, like, do it. If you want to do it, you won't get any judgment from me because it doesn't affect me. It's not my body, it's yours. But to think that you're a hero and then go on some narcissistically elated rant where you're screaming at people who haven't done it and telling them they're morons. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't be on board with that. And I can't say I didn't experience a little bit of Schadenfreude.
Yeah, and it's like, because you don't get the V, you're slowing us all down and you're making the lockdowns worse. If it wasn't for you, the lockdowns would have happened. Oh, so you're blaming me, not the dude with the baton, not the fucking guy ordering the dudes with the baton. You're not mad at them for making illogical lockdowns for vaccinated people. Like you're mad at the other people, not them. That's just completely fucking shit up. That destroying the businesses, destroying this, even with the V and everything else. That's not who you're mad at.
That which would be, psychologically that would be a bully. I'm not going to go for the big enemy. I'm going to go for the big enemy out there. I'm going to go for the smaller enemy right next to me, because so then you have to sort of say, maybe what we should be saying to people is like, when you get this kind of message, this shaming message from people, maybe by default you shouldn't take it that seriously, because they're probably not saying it in total sincerity. This isn't, like, in all likelihood, this isn't a rational person who's thought it through and come to the conclusion that you must be a piece of shit. They're just seizing a moment. These are probably the people who were there on Crystal Net throwing rocks from the back, from the safety of the crowd. Not really not actually doing murder, but experiencing the pleasure of the explosion of violence, and they were there. They just think they didn't really do anything, but at least they were vicariously involved. Yeah. So I wonder if there's pontificating here, if there's a vicarious seizure of agency. It's like, this is my little moment. I get to fucking think
about it. If it's something like that makes you feel like a hero, yeah. I mean, what's your resume? You know what I mean? Like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, what's your fucking, that made you feel like a hero? Jesus Christ.
Yeah. And here's the thing. Me and Richard are just going hard because that's what dudes do. We're just fucking roasting the fuck out of everything. But like, if I meet people that are for it, I don't judge them. I get more judgment like not answering the question. But like, if people say that they are, I'm not like, you're less of a person, you're brainwashed, I just like, there's probably good reasons for why you do and why you want it. That's fine. I don't fucking whatever, dude. It is what it is.
I've seen people where they're at an age and they're just like, I'm doing this, and I'm like, okay, cool, because fine. That's absolutely fine. But this is not. In truth, it's not really about the V. It's about control. It's about control, and the message that we've received is that, in the UK at least, it's absolutely essential that everybody get this thing. And I'm like, you can't tell me that's scientific. You can't tell me that that's a scientific statement that comes from the Bible of epidemiology, that you need 100% vaccination. And I said it, shit, in any community, and that's absolutely necessary to control it. That's just not true. Yeah,
man. I mean, I think ultimately what pisses both of us off the most is obviously the lie from the bigger daddy, but also just the shaming, the overall just surplus of just, I know better, you're terrible, I'm just that's oh my God, like that's the worst part in my opinion, man.
We should all be taking out a little notebook and just noting the names of the people who jump on this, and let's just assume that these people are just fucking spineless pieces of shit who, they've got no education. They don't know what they're talking about. They're just seizing a moment. They've never had any power in their lives. Never. They're sick, spineless, frustrated, constipated, sexless little worms. And this is their moment to say a thing.
Yeah. Everyone should be in close contact with death more. In a way where it's
that's what I came here to say.
Not necessarily like that. I just said it just for shock value, but like an activity that you confront danger just more. Mine's my wheel, my unicycle thing. It's not the safest fucking thing, but when you're consistently building the resilience and facing danger and near death, not near death, really, it's just exaggerations, but like
if you're doing it near traffic,
it could happen. I have my moments.
Hey, did I tell you I bought an electric bike?
What?
Oh, fuck.
Really?
I wish I'd got the wheel. I had a chance to get a wheel, and I went with a bike. And never again. And you have moments where you're like, yeah, this is, it's not impossible that I would die at this moment in time. Like, I've got no fucking potential. That's a car. It's moving at 40 miles an hour. Could die.
Yeah.
There's definitely something to what you're saying. Like, everybody could do with more outdoors activities that made them a little more robust and a little less risk averse. Getting off the internet, unplugging from the news would help as well.
You know, that's what it is. It's like there needs to be more exposure to resilience building things that involves physical contact and danger, and you'll kind of know where your limits are, and you won't be so fearful of so many fucking things in general. Like you lift weights all fucking day. I'm doing the wheel thing. I'm doing a bit of Muay Thai too. So now it's like it's always constant reminders of like my own competence, where I am humbled what I can't fucking do. At the same time, I'm building up what I can, and just it's good. People need that, man.
You just reminded me of a question that I had when I was sort of preparing some points for this. Particularly when I read through Zuby's points, one of his points was about fear. Did you ever have, or have you had at any point in this whole experience, a real fear of the V?
Of the C or the V, or like just in general?
The CV.
No. I mean, okay,
so just think about that for a minute. Why did you, Pierre, never think, fuck, I could fucking die? Why did you never think that?
Like, you know, I look back and I'm like, the only time it was close was right when the news broke. But even when the news broke, I was like, it's just another fucking swine flu thing.
Yeah. I
think I got swept in the hysteria. It wasn't my own personal fear of death. It was like, oh, everybody's also freaking out, and this kind of making me freak out. Like, what the fuck? What's happening here? That type of a thing. But I don't know if it was actually a direct fear of dying.
And you didn't fear the actual virus itself? You didn't fear getting sick? And no? So leading the witness, you're on it. Is that because you didn't see any data that indicated you were at risk?
I wouldn't say that was what it was based on, but I don't know.
So do you have a delusional confidence, or do you just think you're invincible, or?
Just, I don't know, life, dude. It's just like, I don't know. Just go through life. Like,
So here's another question in a similar vein, but different angle. Had you been in a state of going, my mom and dad could die. There's a 70% chance that they could die. There's a 70% chance that you could die, that I could die. Your friends are going to die. Would you see yourself switching into a more authoritarian mode where you're like, okay, we all have to fucking.
That's funny. Like, not really. I wouldn't yell at people.
Right.
You know?
Right. It just occurred to me today, like at no point, I was fearful of, I remember in the beginning talking to you and I was like, I think this is communism 2.0. This is going to be a total fast track takeover, a shutdown of the economic system. We're going to move to a social credit score. That was me at my most panicked. I never was afraid of the virus itself. And when I thought it through this afternoon, I was like, I never saw data. There was zero data that said to me, like, dude, steel yourself. Some more of your family members are going to die. I've had family members in the last 10 years. Four people have gone. And they went with the kind of illnesses where you get the diagnosis, you know it's terminal, and you just steel yourself. You're like, this is it. We got this much time. This is a serious, nothing. I saw nothing that indicated that. Nothing that even came close to that. And I'm like, so how dare you switch us off? Put us back on, you bastards. Pierre, are you there?
I hear you. Your thing is frozen. I can hear you though.
This is an outrage.
You're kind of back.
This is an outrage against liberty, the freedom of speech. Put me back on, you disgraceful NSA worms.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Immediately.
Okay, he can't hear me. Refresh, Richard.
British passport.
Refresh. Okay, I think he's refreshing. Damn, that was like, I was getting heated too, man. It was getting good. I was getting really invested in that, man. Just like cut it off in the best part of the monologue, dude. That's fucked up, bruh. That's fucked up, man. The old man talking to himself, yelling at a cloud. I see myself doing the same thing as time goes on. Oh, there you are, Richard. Hello. Oh, okay, never mind. Goodbye, my friend. Hello, Richie. Can you hear me? Can you see me?
I can.
Okay, all right. You were in a good monologue.
Can you hear and see me?
Yes. Motherfucker, it was getting so good. Fuck, it was doing just fine, man. Jesus Christ. Anyways, great. How do I even carry this on my own? Richard. Oh man, the internet, one of the greatest and worst inventions of our time. Hello. I think it's working now.
It's working, but it's unstable, like me.
Okay. Try it. Okay. Just go off now.
So what I was saying is, before the NSA cut us off, those damned archontic bastards, there was no data. There's no data. I'm not delusionally self-confident. I've watched family members and friends die. I know that you can die. You can die young. There's no justice to it. There's no meaning to it. Good people get sick and die. There was never any evidence that this was the Black Death or the bubonic plague, or even as dangerous as swine flu, which was dangerous to younger people, myself and down. There's never any data for that. So I don't really know. You want to be compassionate, you want to understand people, but I'm like, there is no justification for this level of terror. There just isn't.
Well, I mean, I remember when everything first came out, man. I look back because you're asking me these questions, and I'm like, I didn't necessarily fear the actual thing. It was I was checking mainstream news and just other things while it was happening, and the tone and the red boxes and these
numbers.
People, the numbers and the dying. It was like, I don't even know if I'm worried about dying, but you keep talking to me like that. I'm freaking out, man. I don't even know what I'm freaking out over. But it's like, when a kid falls down, like you're not supposed to be like, ah, you're supposed to be like, oh, get back up, kid. You'll be fine. And then the kid won't freak out. Like that. I was just like feeding off of like, oh my God, daddy is really mad and I'm mad too, or sad or anxious,
Yeah, I never saw anything. There's never been a point where I was like, okay, we all should be panicked about this. And my point is, if you subtracted the terror from this, we would be living in a different world. We would be living in a completely different world. It's terror that has allowed all of this to take place. Can I just plug that new video we did on the Philosophy channel?
Yeah.
It's up. Richard Grannon Philosophy. Pierre did the editing for it. I did the speaky for it. It's the latest video on Richard Grannon Philosophy, talking about the effects of terror on the time that we're living through now. But yeah, when I was considering it today, I was just like, yeah, what's the justification for this, for the degree of panic that we're going through right now?
Yeah, I mean, I look back at how I was during that time, and I don't even recognize that person anymore. Like that person's gone. Like my whole worldview, how I carry myself, how I speak, like it is miles apart from who I am now. And I'm like, I don't understand how you can go through these things and not change and just be like good vibes forever and like not be negative. Like, dude, this is the biggest, especially for my generation as well. We're not built for this fucking shit. The younger generation is not built for this shit. And we're supposed to just like not change, or just be good vibes the whole time.
I've got good news for everybody. The whole thing was merely a broad scale initiation ceremony. And when I clap my hands twice, we'll all wake up. Oh no, I was lying. Sorry to break your hearts again.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Oh, that was a terrible trip. I'm never taking ayahuasca ever again. And people would say to you, what happened? There was a plague. I can't remember.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm really thinking about just how this really shapes younger generations, especially now. I never thought about it, but like you have kids that just missed almost their half of their high school formative years, transitioning into high school. Fuck, when they're 6, 7 years old. Like, what is that gonna? I'm really curious to see the studies on this in a few years to see how this whole situation has shifted the collective psyche.
Well, none of it will be good. It's all going to be pretty dire. Financially, it's dire. Psychologically, it's dire. Socially, it's dire. Yeah, there's not going to be much good. But yeah, there'll be reports coming out next 15, 20 years. This will be the 9/11 of like the way we look back at 9/11 now and its impacts, but this will be 9/11 times, 1,000, 10,000. As the years go by, we will feel the economic and psychological effects of it more and more.
The social movements are the worst fucking part, dude. Like if there's anything that reshapes the collective psyche, it's this shaming social movement approach to every single thing. Like that. I mean, it's like a filter that, or I don't want to say the V, but like it's a filter that just gets thrown on everybody's vision. And then once you start viewing life through that, you can't go around it. Like I showed you that comment on one of my old songs from 4 years ago. And it's just a romantic fucking song. It's called Leftovers. And the comment literally says, it's not even a hate comment, but the comment says, oh, Pierre, is this commentary on single women in China because they're called leftovers because no one wants them? And I'm like, how did you get that?
Once everything is completely politicized, we will create a crisis. Then after the crisis comes the chaos. After the chaos, you have hypernormalization, and then we have completely taken over. It's the politicization of everything, isn't it? It's just keep everything. Everything should be a signifier for a bigger thing, including you. You're under tremendous pressure to be a signifier for bigger things. And I think that's the fight that you're in at the moment, is breaking out from that role of ceasing to be a signifier and be a person, to be an actual human being in your own right.
Yeah, and I think that's not being human. That's just the furthest thing from behaving and acting like a human being. And sure, people should be somewhat politically educated in their own way, but when you start viewing every element of life and you can't imagine a situation or a person or a relationship without the lens of politics, that's a big fucking problem, man.
Yeah, because it becomes intrinsically divisive, doesn't it? It paints the whole world into conflicting, warring tribes. There's the people who care about that, and then there's the people who don't care about that. Whose side are you on? Which flag will you wave? Which badge will you have on? Which is, again, it's a problem of our affluence. It's a problem of our progress, because as we've progressed and become more and more affluent, our sense of self has diminished. We're more anxious. We're more plagued by the poison of feeling completely insignificant, and so we reach for these things for significance. And so then you have. We played the video from Alan Watts, an army of useless saints, but they're not really trying to help. They're trying to be, but they're pretending they're trying to help whilst simply trying to find a way to be. And that's really sick. It's really sick, and it's irritating.
Yeah. I remember you said before, there's nothing more useful than Buddhism right now, or something along the lines of that. If everybody just learned a bit more about Buddhism in this time, it's the most necessary, because this is an infection of mind. It's a rampant, hyper accelerated engine of mind and purely mind, rationalizations, educations, academia, words, terminologies slamming into each other that mean nothing. And in Buddhism, that is a V of sorts. It's the very cause of suffering to continuously ruminate. And at this point, it proves it just so much more. The fact that it's actually better to learn how to knit and garden, to throw some cards around and just shut this off. Like, imagine if a lot more people did this right now, we would be a lot more sane.
100%. It's 100%. We're almost living out like a Buddhist nightmare. So the Buddhism would be the antidote to the fact that we are craving, clinging, and burning. So in Buddhism, when we say, I've got my notes here. When we talk about attachment being the root cause of suffering, the word that we want in Sanskrit is upadana, and that is fuel. It means fuel, and it's material cause. So as Pierre says, it starts an engine, and it starts the wheel of karma turning, but it's fuel that burns. That's upadana, and that's where we're stuck in now. We're stuck in that attachment because that's where the world pushes you to go to, because we are just a bunch of little wormy consumers now. We're living inside of late stage consumer capitalism. We're not doing mindfulness training every day. We're not sat there Nam Myoho Renge Kyo for 8 hours a day. We get 8 hours a day of you're weak, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're not sexy enough, you're not rich enough, you're weak, you're ugly, you're less than, you're less than, you're less than. Attached to the thing, attached to the corporation, attached to the civil rights movement, attached to the then you will be, and it's all upadana, it's all fuel for the fire. So yeah, if as you rightly say, if we disconnected from it, well, it's the only route we have. And if we disconnect from it and go and garden or go and do kickboxing, we're future primitives. We're the primitives of the future. We've chosen to be primitive. We've chosen to be like, I only want to meet people face to face. I don't want to talk to people who I can't smell.
Right.
I don't want to talk to strangers online. If I can't smell you or see you, I don't want to interact with you because I don't know who or what I'm interacting with. And yet then you would have that detachment. And detachment would absolutely save us now. Absolutely.
Yes, exactly. And as somebody as super cyberpunk and internet loving as me, I mean, I have fucking like robot hand and shit. I see myself being a future primitive, to put that into words too. Like, I am spending purposely a lot more time in real life, consciously reaching out to hang out with people in real life. And god damn, it's so much more less stressful. And if I am on a internet thing, like, immediately my cortisol starts surging through my body after we get like, oh, Pierre, you're negative, and they're just like, yeah, and then like I notice that when I'm not on it, I'm just like, I'm chilling, my life ain't that bad, and then I go on it, I'm like, oh my god, here we go again.
Just think about what you're saying. You're describing the relationship with an abusive partner. Like, it's changing your hormones,
right?
It's changing your chemical cocktail. It's making you feel like shit and doubt yourself and stress you out. That's an abusive partner at that point. Nobody should be conditioned to engage with an abusive partner in that way. And that's the nature of the propaganda that we're in with, because it has to tell you you're pointless and weak and sick. It's never going to say, don't buy these trainers because you're already cool enough. That's a completely pointless marketing message. It tells you the opposite. You need the thing. You need things. You are weak. You are weak. You are weak. You're less than. You're pointless. You're stupid. You're boring. But if you buy these things, then you'll be okay. It should be illegal. And when I take over, it will be illegal.
Yes. Great. I can't wait for your dictatorship. You know, like, so I know somebody, and I like them, and they like me, but there is a political difference somewhere along the lines. Mm-hmm. What's funny is that on an unspoken, unconscious level, we really like each other. To a point where if the subjects of politics comes up, we're willing to kind of steer away because the liking is beneath that.
Right.
Now, that liking is not political. There's no words. There's no rationalizations. It's just a liking. And it's funny because I could even see their worldview kind of breaking a little bit.
Because it's chaos.
Because it's not through a political lens, and this person could be really used to seeing things through that academic rationalizations, you know. But as that's there's a sensation below that, and I think that whatever that sensation is where humanity in general needs to be, even with your friends, your family, whatever else. And we forgot how to be in that spot.
Yeah. You have to actually stop for a minute and give somebody some time and attention. You have to look at them and listen to them and be fascinated by them for a moment or two. And that's where the good stuff happens. That's where the only good stuff ever happens.
Yes.
No good stuff happens on the internet.
Yeah, and that is the same even place as you learn to garden, where you learn to garden and all the other things that don't require such rationalizations. And I think to certain people that might be listening to this that have never experienced a situation like this, they'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Everything is like academic. Everything is a number. Everything is blah, 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 blah. But if a lot more people were to tap into that zone, there would be a lot less of this craziness, man.
Well, it's a shame if anybody does think that everything is academic and everything can be given a number, because that indicates that they've just been totally fucking indoctrinated and had the human smashed out of them. And I think we need to start talking in those terms. It's clear that some humans aren't that human anymore. They're just really wank socks for Satan's spunk. And he
Dude, I just thought of like the most. I just thought of like the most like dystopian scenario. It's like sometimes you talk to people and they speak out an algorithm list, like whether it be on YouTube and Twitter. It's like I in my head I have like a USB like in the back of someone's head, and they're just like going down the same algorithm as what they read, and they say it out loud. It's fucking spooky, man.
Yeah, that's at that point, that's where I would say we're no longer the slaves. We're just the crop. We're not the slaves anymore. We're the crop to be, harvested, because we have no value as slaves anymore. We're only to have value as sort of carriers, data carriers. So we used to be expressions of DNA and expressions of genetics, and now we'll just be socks with bits of DNA and genetics, and that's what we do, is we carry and transfer information, and there's not much more than that going on. I must go in about 10 minutes time, so I was going to ask if we should take some questions maybe.
All right. You hungry, huh?
I'm hungry for something, Daddy.
Okay. Pierre, explain which what?
You should change your name from Pierre XO to Pierre Explain.
Pierre Explain. Pierre Explain. That's like when I turn like 37 and I'm gonna do like a seminar or something.
Yeah. You'll get the reading glasses. You'll be like, Pierre Explains. I used to be a crazy YouTube influencer.
Exactly. You know, it's funny. I feel like I have in my head my life planned out when I reach like 32. More than I have it right now. Like I know where I'll be 32, but right now I was like, what the fuck until then?
Yeah, no, you should enjoy yourself.
Was this
Plenty
Idiocracy?
Of time to be old later.
This was Idiocracy, right?
That's Idiocracy. What's that movie where that guy could pay for cigarettes by letting someone follow him around and read him advertisements? That's Idiocracy.
Okay, we have smartphones to do that now. Explain my hair change.
That's apparently the most important thing, Pierre. Forget the fucking world being dropped into medical tyranny. Let's talk about Pierre's hair.
Pierre, you've been really negative lately, and your hair is different.
Pierre. Fucking Pierre. Pierre. What is with your hair, Pierre?
tell us about your hair, Pierre?
Your hair is different and your vibes are off. Why?
Just be who I want you to be, Pierre. Pierre, 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 Pierre.
I washed my hair too early with the braids and then it started slipping off and I couldn't fucking see. The shit was right here and then I needed to see. So that's what happened.
Pierre, 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 Pierre.
Sorry.
Richard! I want to answer this too, Brian. Brian's a homie, by the way. Richard, how can we help cultivate detachment from benevolent expectations of those in power?
How can we help to cultivate detachment from benevolent expectations of those in power? History. Study it. There's loads of really good history channels that break down major world events and revolutions and what governments and before the governments, the kings and the Romans and the popes. People in power generally aren't that nice to the people they have power over. They generally do what they want to do. And so the more you know about history, like if you've seen humanity do this, generation, all across the globe, all different ethnicities, geographies, histories, cultures, you're like, oh, this is just us. This is just what we do.
My advice is just be you. Just be you.
Just fucking be bruh. Just fucking
Just be you. Is spirituality a way to indoctrinate people?
I don't think that's the dictionary definition of spirituality. No. I think you're talking about like religious dogma. Dogma. So the distinction would be mysticism is that which you live, and dogma is that which you just say. So if you're living it, you're a mystic. If you're just saying it, you're a dogmatic.
It goes in line with the last one. Did indoctrination start with religion and church? Probably started off like that, but it can be used in any way now, I think.
Indoctrination, who would have been the first indoctrinators? Well, before you had organized religion and churches, if you had the first primitive version of indoctrination would be like a tribe where the tribal leaders train the young men of the tribe to think that the tribe across the valley are pieces of shit and that they kidnap our children and sacrifice them and stuff. You would indoctrinate so that you can inspire war. And that probably would have happened before formal religion and formal churches.
Richard, you would love the Assassin's Creed games, man. There's a lot of history involved in it. Like dope shit. Like I'm playing one. It's based in France right now, and I don't know what era, but everyone had the powdered wigs, whatever the fuck that was. It's really awesome, man.
It's called Les Années de Powdered Wig.
It's like some fucking time.
De Powdered Wig.
They got like poofy pants on. They got the white hair, you know. That shit.
Yeah. That's like 800 BC.
Yeah. Well, a lot of religious things. A science replacing religion as a dogmatic way to control people.
Oh, it's about the Enlightenment. Yeah, that's interesting. That's super cool. Oh, I thought you were saying that's what happened in Assassin's Creed. You were talking about the French.
Oh, no, I was like,
is that an actual question?
Okay, yeah. I was like, huh?
Is science replacing religion as a dogma? Science plus. I don't think. I mean, in this particular context of an encroaching medical tyranny, then yes, science would be where religion used to be. But from the Enlightenment forward, science and a love of our own technological progress has probably replaced religion.
Well, I mean, science by itself is not a religious dogma, but when you start skewing things and using certain picking and choosing to push political fucking beliefs and shit, then that's that.
Yeah. And science should never do that. It has checks and balances in place that are supposed to prevent it from doing that. But the problem is that science is run by human monkeys, and we are corrupt, naughty little creatures that do what we do for shells and coconuts and colored beads.
This is interesting. How do you prevent that you detach? How do you prevent detaching completely from people in reality right now?
That's nothing you need to be worried about. There's nothing that anybody here needs to be worried about at all.
What do you mean?
There's nobody on this chat that's watching us that is so enlightened they're about to detach from people in reality completely.
No, I think you actually is the opposite. You need to attach to reality. Is in my way, it's being with real people. And there are good people, man. Like, and that's the thing. Like, we keep telling ourselves there's no one out there. Everyone's so shitty, but there really are, man. Even the nice person that you get coffee from, they're a nice person too. You know, really dive into reality at the moment, not political reality, everyday casual reality, primitive.
Just be in the world. Be in the world. Be around people. Don't worry too much about detachment and attachment. If you're not feeling good and you're not in a good place anyway, the process of Buddhist attachment and detachment is probably for next week. You can leave it until next week.
Honestly, you and I philosophize quite often. I mean, and it's important to a certain degree. But the last conversation that we had before the internet completely took a feces on us, we talked about you were just on the beach with a homie and a bunch of new people kind of came through and said hi. I had that same experience just coming to Prague and making silly punny jokes with baristas and boxing with my friend. That is probably the most practical, beneficial answer in this moment in time.
Get outside, get contact with people. You'll feel better. It'll balance your hormones. A lot of things that feel like mental health issues, they can be like hormonal imbalances or just being super, super lonely, or spending too much time inside. And it's just not natural. It's not good for you.
Just get in there, get out there, just fucking,
play outside, kids.
Yeah, for real, man.
Go play.
I got a new wheel, dude.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, because the last one was pretty fucked up from my journeys. So now I'm ready to go out and about again.
How much is it for a wheel?
It's pretty expensive, man. It's probably the same price as an actual Vespa.
Jesus Christ. Is that a couple of grand?
It's $1 grand and a few.
Okay. This electric bike that I got was £800, and it is too small and too weak for my sturdy frame. It was a regrettable purchase.
I really should get sponsored by a company because I know how to sell and like talk about the benefits, man. I use that thing every day and it's way more practical than a scooter and a Vespa. You don't have to worry about parking it. You bring it inside, you go on sidewalks, you go on roads. It's just the best.
It has a big thick wheel on it as well, doesn't it?
It goes up cobblestone, uphill, downhill, like fucking, you can go upside down if you fucking wanted.
This electric bike has these little thin wheels on it. And I'm looking down at them as I'm riding it going, I don't think this is for me. I don't think this is sturdy enough.
Return it, get a wheel, it'll take a week to learn it. You'll be fine.
That's what I should have did. Should we take one more?
All right. Oh, this is a long one. Is anxiety because we've replaced our biological fear of dying with fear of our fellow man who can and rarely doesn't end up being the one to kill us? Why am I nervous at grocery shop? Oh, that's actually a pretty good question, man.
It's a good question. That's not good grammar.
Sorry, Caitlin. The beginning was giving me some trouble.
It's a good question, but it needs some commas and some full stops because it reads like a hypnotic trance induction. This is the way we used to put people into trance, was with like sentences that keep going on and on and on, and people just eventually like, oh, they start trancing out. Anxiety is usually a signal that something is wrong that needs to be changed. There is something to the idea that yes, we've replaced fear of dying with fear of the other people for sure. But you might be nervous going to the shop because of a lot of different reasons. There could be all kinds of reasons why you don't feel too good about going to the shops. I used to suffer terribly from social anxiety, and I would sweat and shake when I went to the shop. And that's just because it just was lacking in confidence, just wasn't very robust, and had been smacked around a lot as a kid, which doesn't help with your confidence.
So if you're, other than those obvious factors of just having anxiety and not having confidence and blah, 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 I think there's actually a bit of weight now, because we talked about this in terms of the social contract. Social trust is fairly broken these days in general. And, you know, we'll get to this discussion probably next week, but it was what we were talking about before the internet shot out on us. And it was within societies that are hyper competitive and constantly trying to find somewhere on the dominance hierarchy. So when you're walking around, you can unconsciously feel people sizing you up everywhere. And that's how I felt when I lived in California, even in Greece too. I felt the same thing. And that brought all of my social anxiety back. Ever since I moved out here, I've had very little. I kind of know, and I have the social trust of the people around me. I know that that's not the intention to size things up. People are pretty, you know, equal in a lot of ways. And I don't really stress out that much of these things. But when I'm in a community of people that are distrustful of each other and they're always sizing each other up, a lot of that shit just comes back unconsciously.
It's it's uncomfortable if you feel like a dominance hierarchy thing is being played out that you didn't necessarily agree to engage in the competition of. You would feel that unconsciously, and it could be part of the problem. Identifying what the anxiety is trying to tell you is typically a good exercise. Okay, if I assume that I'm an intelligent human being and the system that's evolved over millions of years works well, what's the threat? Like, what's this anxiety trying to warn me of or lead me towards? And assume the intention is positive and see if you can find an answer that way.
Or move somewhere you like too.
Stay away from dickheads. And if they keep making you feel anxious, just headbutt them. And if they're still standing up after the headbutt, it's elbow, eye gouge, head control, knee to the jaw, stamp on the ground.
Richard, my legs are so unconditioned. Jesus Christ.
Show us them, Pierre, you fucking tease. Do it, you whore.
Bro, I got my fucking pads on and I'm kicking my friend's trainer, and he's been doing this shit for 15 years, conditioned his legs, and it's hurting my leg more than his, dude. Fucking crazy.
You're doing like a Thai round kick?
Yeah, like lower.
It looks so simple. It's an astonishingly tricky technique to master. Getting the right level of relaxation and tension, so that you do it the way the Thais do it is really tough. Really tough.
And the fucking teeps, the push kicks.
You like that?
My fucking left leg is like mentally unable, dude. It's like just like, like what are you doing? It just feels so stupid. Yeah.
When I next come to Prague, I'll show you a trick for that, because I'm right-legged. So with well, your mate will be able to show you this. If he teaches you to do a switch step to load your left leg, it looks more complex, but it actually your left leg probably doesn't have as much loading in it. Whereas if you switch step before, even though it looks kind of fancy, it actually is. It probably would be easier for you. So just say, "How do I do a switch step teep?" And he'll be like, "What the fuck do you want to do that for?" But try it.
The fancier, the better. I'm just doing it all for show.
It's all for show, baby.
All right, my friends. Thanks for joining this week's Tentacle Croissant. Richard, lead us out.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so very much for your time and your attention. We really do appreciate it. And we look forward to speaking to you all again very soon.
Goodbye.